Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great beginning to your new week out there. Here to bring you the latest information that we have on multiple things in this morning's video. Of course, we will kickstart this video off by giving you some new info on the tropics. We'll go over all the overnight into this morning's model guidance that we have, see if anything has changed. If you watch yesterday evening's video, I spoke on the tropics specifically. I tried to answer those questions for you folks. A lot of people are wondering, is there another storm coming? In fact, for some folks, it's just a flat out statement. They are sold on another storm coming. So we're going to try to answer those questions for you folks in this. I got neighbors, I got friends, I got, family members. In fact, my neighbor yesterday outside just flat out asked me, hey, when is this next storm going to hit? It wasn't, is there a storm out there? He just flat out asked, when is this next storm going to hit? So we're going to speak on this in this video. The tropics update in this video is going to be broken up in like two segments. One for the Central Atlantic, Central and Eastern Atlantic, one for the Caribbean. We definitely need to speak on what's going on out there in the Central Atlantic, even though, a lot of this action most likely will turn out to sea. But there is one area that we are watching behind what's likely going to be a powerful hurricane, which likely will be Hurricane Kirk. There's one behind it that we definitely need to keep our eyes on it. This might, hang a little bit more low in latitude and might get a little bit closer to us, but this is way far out. But a lot of people are wondering, what about the Caribbean? And we'll have a segment for that too. We will also get you covered as far as what's going to happen weather-wise across the entire lower 48 for your Monday. We're going to get back in the groove of doing that. I know I left you guys hanging over the last several days with that, but we're going to get back in the routine of talking about your daily forecast because I know some of you folks rely on me for that, so I got you covered. Timestamps throughout the entire video will be there, so take advantage of them to jump ahead to certain portions of the video that you want to watch. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. So there's a lot going on out there. There's no immediate threat. I will answer that right off the dot. This right here is soon to be Tropical Storm Kirk. This is likely going to be a powerful hurricane. This is what's left over of Tropical Storm Joyce. Isaac is way up here. You can't even see it. And, I would have showed you a different vantage point here. But, Isaac's pretty much way up there in the North Atlantic, not bothering anybody. So that's why I just drew a little arrow pointing to it up here. You can't really see it, but this, took a name. This was Joyce, but, not bothering anybody way out here in the Atlantic. And there's a good chance this is not going to bother anybody either, but soon to be Kirk, I'll call it, is going to become a powerful hurricane. By the time some of you folks watch this, this will no longer be Tropical Depression 12, which is what it is right now. It'll be Tropical Storm Kirk. By the time we get into Friday, this could be a major hurricane and turning out to sea, not bothering anybody but the surface of the ocean. We are also watching an area of interest behind this, and it's way over here on this side of your screen here. This has now a 60% chance to develop sometime in the next 7 days. I expect that to go up over the next 24 hours from the updates from the National Hurricane Center. This has a shot to be Leslie. It also has a shot to become Milton. Because we are also watching area of interest in here in the Caribbean. Now, you would think this is it right here. This is just some sort of gnarly spin ongoing right now. But this could give a little bit of a boost to what's going on in the circled area, which isn't much at all. Okay, but I'm just drawing a big circle because this is the area that we are watching for something to develop. And it could develop up here into the Gulf of Mexico too. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they expanded the circle area up into here, a little bit further up into here over the next coming updates. So these are the areas we are watching. Which one is the most concern or, poses a higher risk? Obviously the one closer to home, but is it an immediate threat? Absolutely not. But we will show you some model guidance that does show the possibility of something getting going here in the Gulf of Mexico here over the next several days. So the latest from the National Hurricane Center, we'll see if we'll have another update. We do not. This is pretty much the 5 a.m. update. There's Isaac way up here, 65-mile-per-hour tropical storm, not bothering anybody. Joyce, it's Tropical Depression Joyce, no longer a tropical storm, not bothering anybody. Okay, then we got Tropical Depression 12. This is what's going to be a powerful Hurricane Kirk. Okay, and then we have this area of interest right here, has a 50-50 shot to develop into a depression or a named storm. sometime over the next 7 days. And I'm starting to think if it's going to develop, it'll happen in this area right here of the Gulf of Mexico. So in this, the northern section of the orange area, if it's going to develop, I think it'll be in the Gulf of Mexico. And then we got this right here. I'm going to just kind of click it. This will be something I want to watch too. It has a 60% chance to develop behind what will be Kirk soon. Honestly think if whoever's going to take the L name, whether it's the Caribbean system or either the one way out here in the Eastern Atlantic, I think it'll be the one out here in the Eastern Atlantic. Leslie will be the next name. A lot of model guidance shows this system becoming a powerful hurricane too. But I would argue against that a little bit, and I'm going to talk about why. But this will definitely do something. It'll probably take a name. Will it bother anybody? Time will tell. All right, another way to look at this, and I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on soon-to-be Kirk because I think Kirk is going to be a very impressive hurricane way out here in the Atlantic. It's probably not going to be bothering anybody, but I think it'll be a very impressive-looking hurricane on satellite and things like that. But it should become a tropical storm, Kirk, sometime this afternoon. By the time we get into, by the time we get into 2 a.m. Wednesday, it's going to be a hurricane. By the time we get into 2 a.m. Friday, a Category 3 major hurricane. And this could be a hurricane that, becomes a Category 4 or 5, but might not bother anybody. In fact, it most likely, 95% chance it does not bother anybody. But it's going to be a very powerful hurricane out here in the Atlantic, most likely turning out to sea. Now, you see this little dot here? This is the disturbance behind it. You can see this has that, precursor look, kind of that pre-look of what's going to be a powerful tropical system. I mean, you have nice outflow. You have that cyclonic look, that shrimp-type look from soon-to-be Tropical Storm Kirk. But you do got an area of unsettled weather right behind it, too, which is our area of interest that has a 60% chance to develop sometime in the next 7 days, even a 20% chance to develop in the next 2 days. So we're going to watch this also. All right, there's that traditional look. M stands for major. Like I said, I think this will be a fish storm. No use in spending much more time on that. So let's take a look at the latest GFS run. So this is what's left over of Joyce. Joyce is going to kind of just disappear on your screen. This is soon to be Kirk. And this is what's most likely going to eventually be Leslie. There is a chance it becomes Milton, the M name. But I think this will most likely become Leslie. Could be wrong. It's just names at the end of the day. I think it'll develop, which is what I'm trying to say here. So we'll get this in motion. We'll take it to Wednesday morning. We already have a powerful hurricane based off the GFS out here in the Central Atlantic. Nothing's really developed from this area behind it, but you keep this going. Watch how it's starting to turn out to sea. It's a 952 millibar hurricane. As we get into Friday morning, that would tell us this is probably a Category 3 hurricane at least. But check out how this system forms right behind it. Now, a lot of times, these tropical systems have a hard time forming right behind a major hurricane. They get whiplash from the outflow, and these systems really struggle. So I would not be surprised if the system does downtrend behind soon-to-be Kirk, and what this would be likely Leslie. There's a lot of names out there, easy to get them all mixed up. I'll probably do it at least a time or two, breaking down the tropics over the next several days. But you keep this going. Powerful hurricane Kirk, moving out to sea, turning north, but there's one right behind it. Okay, this is already a hurricane as we get into this coming Saturday evening. We got another hurricane right behind it, taking the same track pretty much that soon-to-be Kirk is taking. So we got what will likely be Hurricane Leslie out here, and it's pretty much turns out to sea also. Now, we're getting about 7, 8, 9 days out, so this is pretty far out, but this also turns out to sea, doesn't bother anybody. So that's the latest GFS run. So what I'm basically showing you here is a bunch of fish storms. Now, what about the Euro? The reason I'm going to continue to show you this is because the Euro is a little different, and the Euro AI model, which, by the way, did very well with Helene, so I'm going to start showing that a lot more. But here is soon-to-be Kirk, right here. See how that millibar is dropping steadily? Powerful hurricane by the time we get into Friday morning, but look at the system behind it, staying a little bit weaker for a little bit longer on the Euro. Kirk is turning out to sea very slowly. Bermuda's right here. Of course, we always got to watch these fish storms with Bermuda because, Bermuda's way out here with the fishes, way out here in the North Atlantic. But check out the system behind it, which will likely be Leslie, the L name. All right, there goes Kirk, heading on out to sea, not bothering anybody. And then look at the one behind it. This is about 7.5, 8 days from now. See how it doesn't do what the GFS does? It kind of hangs out more east to west. doesn't take an abrupt turn, and it gets all the way to about category 4 or 5 status about 10 days from now. And it's still very far away from the Leeward Islands, but it's definitely closer to them than what soon-to-be Kirk got. Okay, I'm tired of already calling it soon-to-be Kirk. Hopefully, just to make it easy, hopefully it does just become a tropical storm today. But of course, we are pulling for it to go out to sea, just so we can just go on and call it Tropical Storm Kirk or Hurricane Kirk. But this would be powerful Hurricane Leslie in this case. I mean, this is a very strong hurricane, category 4 or 5. What about the Euro AI model? Same thing. You see the system right here. This will be soon to be Kirk. Heading on out to sea. Not bothering anybody. Does take a little bit longer to turn. And then here comes a system behind it that is just, it's easy to get confused. But that is this system right here. Has a 60% chance to develop. We go back to this. This is going a little bit more east to west. Takes a little bit longer to develop. Finally does. Now we got a hurricane out of this too. About 9 days from now. And it kind of ends up right where the Euro does, but the Euro AI model does go past 10 days, and I'll go on to show it to you. Eventually it does turn this out to sea too. It just turns it a little bit later. I just want to watch this one. I am, and most people are, not just me, very highly confident that soon to be Tropical Storm and Hurricane Kirk will turn out to sea. Now the one behind it we need to watch a little bit more. The reason being is if you look at the EPS ensemble, so this makes up 51 members here, and this takes it all the way out to about Saturday night. There is what's going to be Kirk turning out to sea. You see these bright pinks. This tells us that we have, sub 950 millibar storms. It's just going to be at minimum a major hurricane. But I could see this becoming a powerful category 4 or 5 hurricane out here right in the middle of the Atlantic. Okay, so pretty high signal that every member turns out to sea. Okay, here comes the Lesser Antilles, the Leeward Islands, Windward Islands showing up here on your map here. So this is what's likely going to be a Leslie. Now you can tell that this one's forming, high confidence in this developing. Now let's go on and go out to about 8 days or so. Okay. Of course, there's Kirk, but you see how some of these members look like they're about to head on out to sea. But you got a good bit of members here that's staying pretty low. So of course, what does it do as it continues to move? Does all these members kind of turn and do like this? Just turns a little bit later than soon to be Kirk. But these are the members you want to watch. Okay. Typically this area of the ocean, what we call the main development region, which has been pretty quiet, by the way, as far as any threats, starts to get a little bit quieter here in late September, early October, but it looks like it's just getting active instead. So very weird hurricane season. Let's go on and switch it to the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. A lot of people are wondering about this one. We are watching the main development region like crazy, okay? But closer to home, Caribbean, right where Helene formed. Keep your eyes right down here. And you're just going to see blobs of green, not a whole lot of anything. You're going to see an occasional L pop up. And here it comes, just this area of energy, which is likely right in here. There's nothing really solid that you're seeing. And that is because the models have really downtrended. And that's where you get the delay of information. Everybody's still telling everybody and their brother's uncle's dog that there's a storm coming. And then at the same time, models are downtrending with any kind of storm coming. So, it's the wildfire effect, right? I'm probably going to go to work today and I'm going to have customers come in and say, then there's another storm coming. And, all you can say is, yeah, I hear you, man. But listen, the reason this conversation is sparked, the question is sparked, is because as you keep this going, there is energy in the Gulf of Mexico. And once upon a time, like 2 or 3 days ago, it was showing an all-out hurricane developing in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, that's just a broad area of low pressure. And this is getting developed off the same thing as what Helene did, the CAG, Central American Gyrum, which is basically this big, broad area of low pressure over Central America. And occasionally it'll spit out, an area of energy, on the Atlantic side, on the Pacific side, Bay of Campeche down here. And sometimes, one of these X's that I drew here can develop into an all-out tropical system. And that's exactly what happened with Helene. And we know what Helene just did. But, on the GFS, you keep this going here. We get all the way into Sunday evening. Just is trying to develop some sort of low pressure here in the northern Gulf of Mexico. It does sling a ton of rain up into the Gulf coastline. And eventually it does have a landfalling weak tropical storm depression. into the panhandle of Florida sometime early next week. Like next week, not this week, early next week. Throws, a good bit of moisture into the southeast. We need to watch any kind of flooding event for the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, North Georgia, South Carolina, of course. But as far as any kind of powerful hurricane, no. Nothing. We're still watching it, though. The Euro, what about the European model? Same thing, gets that energy out of the, it's hard to see where it is. It really is. But it gets the energy out of the Caribbean. It might hang out in the Caribbean for a while. We started getting a Friday morning. We're getting just a lot of green in the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, let's go on and get a little bit closer. I meant to do that on the GFS, but I forgot. My bad. Friday afternoon, a lot of green in the Gulf of Mexico. A lot of tropical moisture, right? We're starting to get into Saturday. Looks like a more organized area of tropical moisture here. Does that develop into something? It does. It tries to get going here. We're getting into Sunday morning. We got a weaker low pressure. It does sling a bunch of moisture right into the peninsula of Florida. This is kind of what it was showing last night too. Just throws a lot of tropical moisture early next week. Similar time frame as the GFS, but a little bit further south. There's a big slug of moisture right into the Florida. But as far as any high impact tropical system, absolutely not. What about the Euro AI model? Same thing. You got just areas of energy here in the Caribbean. Eventually it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, which we will go on and zoom into. See this low pressure here. We're getting into Saturday morning. Look at all this tropical moisture on the northeast quadrant of some sort of low pressure here. This could deliver flooding rains along the panhandle of Florida Sunday morning. We're getting into Monday, and it kind of does what the Euro does. Just a weaker low and just drops a lot of tropical moisture, but no high impact tropical system by any means. A great way to see what's going on here, we're going to start this off by tomorrow. You see these kind of vibrant like splashes of yellow and orange on your screen, like right here. You see it right into here, and eventually you're probably going to see it right here. This is what I'm talking about, little vortices that kind of spin around this Central American gyrum or gyre. I know it doesn't have an M in it. I know you guys will make fun of the way that I pronounce it. But Central American gyre is basically this broad area low pressure, pops off little areas of energy on either the eastern or Pacific side. And you can see these little areas of energy right here. There's one right here. And as you keep moving kind of this feature here, you'll see this energy here in the Caribbean off the Pacific side. And eventually, one of these pieces of energy does try to get going right here. And yeah, we just got to watch it. And this is more so just some sort of upper level low, it looks like. But that's kind of a better way to look at it, but that's not a great example because you can barely see the energy. But if we're just going to take this out 1 week on the European ensemble. Here's your signal. You have just weak low pressures kind of thrown everywhere across the Gulf of Mexico. Not a very high signal of any kind of big time event. You do have some, in the greens where it hits tropical storm status. And I think that's very possible. Am I ready to say, hey, what's a high end scenario of this? I'm definitely not. But, there is definitely, I would say that model guidance is kind of everywhere on this right now. And I could see us going back in the wrong direction as far as something stronger. Just because models are trying to get a good idea of what's going to happen with this energy pivoting around this area of low pressure called the CAG over Central America. So very sloppy signal, but it does show a low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico. I think that's what you would take from this, no doubt here. So, you do take a look at the GEFS here, and I don't know if this is going to, it does. It goes 1 week out for us. Same look. I mean, it's just everywhere. Some of these do show a stronger storm system. You got this one weird one that kind of develops into a higher end hurricane and then goes right towards Houston, Galveston. But it's a big time outlier. So, members are strung out everywhere. No solid signal, no grouping of members whatsoever. It's hard to know what's going to happen. But what we do know is the reason that I would say this energy just kind of hangs out in the Gulf of Mexico is because of this ridging influence over the U.S. that continues to dominate most of the U.S. that is just not allowing for any kind of country crossing cold fronts to really move through. And this ridge on top of the country, creates this flow like this. Okay. And this kind of pushes anything in the Gulf of Mexico kind of keeps it down here. Doesn't allow it, I would say, to rise really far north at all. And that's why a lot of this energy kind of hangs out down here and eventually kind of goes zonal, kind of west to east and hits Florida. I mean, it's not close enough to really feel the flow up here. It just kind of drifts right into Florida. But not a high signal for anything, guys. There's something out there, but the model guidance has really dropped off. So that's an update on the tropics. As far as what's going on back at home, we still have leftover moisture kind of spinning around from the leftover lower pressure from Helene. We're getting a lot of rain right now across areas of southern PA, Maryland, northern VA, West Virginia, even some rain back into Ohio, a little bit of rain moving across the Carolinas. We got a little bit of shower activity in northern areas of the country. Outside of that, it's pretty quiet everywhere else. Watches, warnings, and advisories. A lot of red flag warnings across the northern sections of the country. Windy, dry conditions, definitely creating a fire hazard. So definitely be aware of this. A lot of heat alerts out into the southwest, excessive heat watches, warnings, heat advisories up against the coastal areas. Ron, we're thinking about you in San Diego. We have not heard much from Ron. I emailed him. For you regular viewers, I emailed him a few weeks back and he said it was okay, but definitely praying for you, buddy. But freeze warnings, freeze watches, dense fog advisories across the deep south, a lot of moisture hanging around. We do have flood watches, and of course we have tons of flood warnings going on around these riverbeds and just borders of rivers and things like that from the catastrophic flooding we've seen over the last few days. So as far as the excessive rainfall outlook, we do have a slight risk in areas of Virginia and West Virginia. This means that we do have that 15% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles in a given location. No risk of severe weather today, just a general risk of thunderstorms in these light green areas. And speaking of the southeast, we're going to continue to see this little spin, see how these popcorn downpours develop across the southern Alps, the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic. They'll kind of pop up for a few hours, have an opportunity to dump a lot of heavy rainfall, unfortunately, over even areas that do not need it in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. But the good news is, hey, these will develop and then they'll be done. It's not a solid heavy rainfall, but it could be heavy when it is falling. See all those storms over areas of North Carolina, Virginia could dump a lot of heavy rainfall. This has definitely been one of those tropical systems where one of these cold fronts have not swept it through. So we still have a very humid air mass behind Helene. No fall, crisp, cool air to be found. It really isn't. So definitely a day with pop-up shower and storm activity. And then, I definitely think we're going to have to watch an area, more congealed area, northeast North Carolina, Virginia, of heavier rainfall tonight. So, this could cause some flooding issues for sure. You can already see some tropical moisture bubbling up down here in the Gulf of Mexico. But a closer look at my friends here in the southern Alps, praying for you folks. There's that risk of widespread pop-up downpour activity. You can see the spin out here. You see how you got a little bit of a flow going this way, and then the flow down here goes that way. And so anywhere across the state you're seeing on the map, especially North Georgia, North Alabama, northern sections of South Carolina, points north, a risk of pop-up shower and storm activity everywhere. Very pop-up, popcorn in nature will pop up and then kind of move over the area, and then it'll be done. The sun might come right back out. So be aware of this. Up here in the northeast, there's all that rainfall that's possible in the mid-Atlantic. We'll get the possibility of some downpours in Ohio, some showers and storms possible in the mid-Atlantic, as you can tell here. The immediate northeast continues to have pretty quiet weather. Once you get into New Jersey, New York State, points northeast, there's not really anything going on up here. It's pretty quiet weather. It's just the mid-Atlantic just going to deal with the shower and storm activity. The south central U.S., not a whole lot of anything this evening. No rain. Could get some of that shower activity that might make it as far west as Memphis, but, I wouldn't bet on it. We're getting into this evening, getting into the overnight hours, all the way into tomorrow morning, and then some showers could develop in northern Louisiana. But your weather is pretty quiet across the south central U.S. The north central U.S., some showers are possible to pivot back into Indiana, Ohio, even southern areas of Illinois. We could get some shower activity that crosses across areas of the UP and Michigan overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. You could go to sleep with dry grounds, wake up with dampness on everything, as we're waking up for your Tuesday morning. But I haven't really had a chance to ask you guys, how's your fall colors doing up here? Just been so focused on the tropics. I'll be honest, fall's kind of left my mind over the last week or so. I'm not as much in the fall spirit as I was. I need to get back into that. Actually, put some of my fall decorations outside. Got some orange lights that I kind of wrapped outside and stuff like that. Just kind of trying to get myself back into the fall spirit of things, if you will. But it's been tough, especially with the warm weather in the tropics and just the terribleness of if that's a word of Helene that went through. It's been hard to kind of get into the spirit of things there. But Monday afternoon, the western U.S., pretty quiet weather. I mean, there's not really anything going on out here across the Rockies, the West Coast, the Pacific Northwest. Pretty quiet weather. Temperatures, just not really any cool weather out here. The only reason you're getting this pocket of cooler weather right here is because just the cloud cover and rain from the leftover low pressure spinning around this area. Once you get away from that, you warm well into the 80s. I mean, hot and humid down here in Florida, even heat advisories. 60s and 70s up here in the Northeast, but I mean, it's not really that fall crisp air you look for. Warm across the middle of the country, 80s, even 90s once you get into areas of the central and southern plains. The cooler air is in the northern Rockies. We got 50s, but there is a big time boundary that separates cool fall-like air and pretty hot air down here in the Southwest. So, folks, that's all I got. Thank you for tuning in. God bless all y'all. I appreciate y'all praying for everybody impacted by Helene. And we'll continue to keep you updated on the tropics. I know a lot of people are interested and certainly on high alert. Everybody is very hypersensitive about the tropics. So I want to do my best to not freak anybody out. Of course, if I do, it's not intentional at all. There is a lot of people out there that will take advantage of that. So just be careful who you watch and those things like that. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again soon.